Welcome back to the channel. Self-respect is the psychological foundation upon which all external respect is built, because people continuously interpret behavioral evidence to estimate how much value you assign to yourself. This evaluation happens automatically through social cognition processes that rely more on observed patterns than spoken claims. When your daily actions show that your time is protected, your goals are non-negotiable, and your boundaries are enforced, observers adjust their behavior toward you. This is connected to self-signaling theory, where your actions reinforce both your own identity and the image others construct of you. If you repeatedly delay your own priorities, tolerate poor treatment, or abandon commitments when things become difficult, the signal transmitted is that your standards are flexible and your self-worth is conditional. People rarely decide to disrespect someone consciously. Instead, they subconsciously mirror the level of respect that person demonstrates toward themselves. Self-respect is visible in micro decisions. Arriving prepared, speaking with clarity, declining distractions, and following through on promises all indicate internal order. These behaviors activate competence inference, where others assume capability based on discipline and self-regulation. Conversely, over-apologizing, chronic indecision, and approval-seeking communicate insecurity. The brain categorizes individuals partly through status cues, and confidence grounded in action elevates perceived status without verbal assertion. Emotional steadiness also plays a role. When criticism or setbacks do not destabilize you, it signals that your identity is internally anchored rather than dependent on external feedback. This stability builds trust, and trust strengthens respect. Consistency between values and actions reduces cognitive dissonance in observers, making your character easier to understand and rely on. Over time, this alignment forms a reputation that influences how opportunities, responsibilities, and authority are distributed around you, because your behavior repeatedly confirms that you operate from internal standards rather than situational pressure or temporary emotion, or the need for approval being disliked, or the comfort of excuses, or the avoidance of discomfort, or the habit of shrinking your ambitions with the expectations of people, purpose, or long-term direction in an environment that constantly measures the result and personal non-probability, their accountability. Discipline is a psychological signal of authority because it demonstrates control over impulses in environments where most people surrender to comfort. At its core, discipline reflects delayed gratification, the capacity to endure short-term discomfort for long-term benefit. This trait is strongly associated with high performance and is immediately visible through behavior patterns. When someone adheres to routines, maintains preparation, and executes responsibilities regardless of mood, observers form judgments about reliability. Reliability is a cornerstone of trust, and trust is a prerequisite for respect. Inconsistent effort creates uncertainty, and uncertainty reduces perceived competence. The human brain prefers predictability, and disciplined individuals provide behavioral stability across changing conditions. Consistency also reinforces identity credibility. When intentions match actions repeatedly, observers experience cognitive coherence about who you are. Without this alignment, people discount your statements and lower their expectations. Discipline eliminates that gap by making performance habitual rather than emotional. Emotional discipline amplifies this effect. Remaining steady when tired, pressured, or criticized signals self-regulation, a trait linked to executive functioning and maturity. Those who govern their responses appear capable of handling responsibility because they are not controlled by fluctuating states. Effort visibility further shapes perception. When observers recognize the sacrifice behind preparation and repetition, they attribute success to earned competence rather than luck. Earned competence commands deeper respect because it implies repeatability and resilience. Discipline also reduces attention-seeking behavior. The focus stays on execution rather than recognition. This quiet consistency reinforces the perception of internal motivation. Over time, neural adaptation makes disciplined behavior more automatic, producing confident execution that others interpret as mastery. Through structure, repetition, and emotional control, discipline becomes evidence that your standards operate independently of mood, external pressure, or temporary setbacks, or distractions, or social temptations, or fatigue or doubt, or the absence of applause or quick results in situations that separate those driven by fleeting excitement from those committed to sustained excellence and long-term growth. Body language shapes respect because nonverbal signals are processed faster than verbal information and heavily influence first impressions. Through thin slicing, the brain forms rapid judgments based on posture, movement, and facial cues. Upright posture, grounded stance, and measured gestures are associated with high power displays which signal confidence and control. Slouch posture, fidgeting, or restricted movement are interpreted as low power cues, often linked to anxiety or uncertainty. Even before speech begins, these signals influence perceived leadership potential. Eye contact communicates engagement and credibility. Balanced eye contact signals attentiveness and self-assurance, while avoidance suggests discomfort or lack of conviction. Movement tempo also matters. Slow, deliberate gestures imply emotional regulation and composure. composure, whereas hurried movements imply internal tension. Stillness during pressure is particularly powerful because it suggests calm cognition. Spatial behavior contributes as well. Occupying space comfortably without shrinking signals self-confidence. Facial expression congruence, matching expression to context, builds trust by showing emotional awareness. Embodied cognition adds another layer. Physical posture influences internal states, reinforcing confidence when strong posture is adopted. This feedback loop enhances authenticity of the signal. Because nonverbal cues are perceived as less controllable than speech, they are weighted heavily in credibility judgments. Over time, consistent, confident body language shapes how others evaluate competence before considering achievements or credentials or arguments or intentions or explanations or background or experience or knowledge or authority, ambition or preparation or resilience or readiness for responsibility in environments where perception often precedes proof. Emotional control signals psychological strength because it demonstrates regulation of internal reactions rather than surrender to them. This capacity depends on effective interaction between emotional and executive brain systems, enabling thoughtful response instead of reflexive reaction. High reactivity creates unpredictability, which reduces trust. Composed behavior under stress indicates stability, a trait associated with leadership and responsibility. In social settings, individuals who maintain emotional balance often become reference points during uncertainty, influencing group mood through emotional contagion. Regulation preserves cognitive clarity. Intense emotions narrow attention and impair reasoning, while measured responses maintain access to problem-solving abilities. Observers equate calm analysis with intelligence and credibility. Emotional control also shows independence from ego threats. Not reacting defensively to criticism signals confidence in identity. Regulation differs from suppression. It involves acknowledging feelings without letting them dictate behavior. Techniques like cognitive reframing reduce emotional intensity while preserving awareness. People respect those whose responses are chosen rather than automatic. Consistency in emotional regulation builds a reputation for dependability. Others infer that larger responsibilities can be handled because smaller pressures have been managed effectively. The message conveyed is that circumstances, provocation, or stress do not dictate your behavior because responses are governed by awareness, restraint, and perspective rather than impulse, anger, insecurity, or the need to dominate every interaction or defend every point or react to every challenge in environments where composure signals authority. Standards over popularity reflects internal validation rather than dependence on approval. Excessive conformity signals unstable identity, reducing perceived strength. Stable standards create identity clarity, making behavior predictable and trustworthy. When values shift for acceptance, respect weakens because others cannot assess character reliably. Maintaining standards demonstrates independence from social reward mechanisms, which requires self-regulation and long-term focus. Boundary setting expresses this orientation. Declining requests that conflict with priorities signals structured self-management. Assertiveness research shows boundaries increase respect by defining interaction limits. Chronic accommodation reduces perceived value. High standards also imply competence. Refusal to compromise quality signals strong internal benchmarks. Observers associate this with professionalism and expertise. Not everyone responds positively to firm standards, but respect differs from likability. Respect acknowledges integrity even without agreement. Internal alignment between values and behavior strengthens self-esteem, producing natural confidence. Others adjust to this congruence. Focusing on excellence and principle-driven choices communicates that direction is internally anchored and not dependent on shifting opinions or temporary praise or social pressure or emotional reactions or fear of exclusion or discomfort of being misunderstood while pursuing disciplined growth beyond immediate approval. Thanks for watching my video. Please subscribe the channel.